So we bought a used Rydom mower, and yeah, it works. And now we've had a lot of rain, so Mark is out cutting the grass. Better him than me. He thinks this machine is a little bit difficult to operate, so we wanted to do it for now. Well, we cleared some of the larger fallen logs here, fallen tree branches. Yeah, this place can be kind of interesting this time of year when you get a lot of heavy rain and then you hear bang and a branch comes down because it had rotted. We still have this enclosure to take down, but that's going to happen in the fall when it's cooler. It's a fairly large enclosure with 2 shelters, I guess, built in. So yeah, it's all fenced into about where that tree is, actually beyond that. So got to take the fence down first, and then we might thin out some of the trees back there and use them for firewood. So that's another thing that we've been working very hard at, and that is cutting up some wood. We've got a fair bit of cedar here, and I understand cedar burns hot and quick, so we probably want to mix that with hardwood when we're burning it. We'll see how it goes. We've never burned cedar before. So anyway, that's what Mark has been up to the last few days. That and cutting the lawn with this little beastie. He's taken over that job, at least most of it. I still have to go around with the other lawnmower and clean up the edges where this little thing is tricky to use. Apparently he tells me that it's, it was cheap. It was a used one. We don't really have a place to store these safely because everything's open here. So didn't really want to buy a brand new one anyway. So there's some of the work that we've been up to. Every morning he wants to go and cut some wood, and those trees have been down for 2 years, so they should be reasonably dry. Okay, the other thing is that I have been gathering some rotten wood, and the purpose of gathering rotten wood, I'm going to show you in a second here, is that when we visited Laura and Glenn, the main purpose was to pick up these buckets for planting because my soil is absolutely useless. So what I have been doing, because these are fairly large, is finding some wood that is rotting or it's not good for burning anyway. So various stages of deteriorating, and I've lined the bottom of most of them with some of these logs and then put topsoil on top. So they'll need another bag of topsoil. Each one has 1 bag right now, and that's not enough, but it's enough to plant. I've got 4 little fig trees. I've got 9 planters. So I've got 1 empty, 1 fig, 1 empty, 1 fig, and so on, in order to give each one room to branch out. Now in these other ones, the other 5, I have to get Mark to cut this one in half because it doesn't fit in the bucket. Yeah, and he helped me with this yesterday. Spent the day cutting up some logs that were around the property that had fallen and were not suitable for burning. We do have some trees back there that we will eventually, maybe next fall, cut down some of them and store them for firewood. We'll see what happens. But I want to be able to plant I don't know if you noticed, but I did, when I grew these figs, I put little rosemary cuttings at the bottom of each of these little pots, and they seem to be thriving. So I will have rosemary as well. And I've started some sage. You know, I tried doing that in the ground and it didn't work. I don't know if, you know, if the animals are eating them or what the issue is, or they just won't let them come up. So I also started some flowers, and I just planted these yesterday because they have germinated, and I thought, well, let's get them out where we have sunlight, and we do have sunlight here. When, you know, this is one area that will get sunlight. So this is the only one with flowers, and I will have sage, I will have basil, I will have obviously rosemary, and what else? I think there was another spice. Now, the little lavender plugs that I planted against the wall are still only this big, but there's 4 or 5 of them that are alive. I may leave them there, or I may bring 1 or 2 of them here. And the other thing I want to plant is some winter squash. So in 1 or 2 of these pots. So I can certainly double up with the herbs because the pots are big enough. Now, yes, these used to be animal feed or animal mineral buckets, and you know, they'll do. They'll be my garden until I can find some other way of actually, you know, putting in a real garden. And Mark is talking about putting in some sort of a retaining wall for me, because this ground is not, it's all on a slope. Like, that is the flattest spot I have, and then up there as well, but he wants to use that area for something. So this area is all on a slope, and maybe here where the burn barrel is, I told him this is another sort of flat spot, which I kind of prefer because it's closer to the house, you know, but it's still coming down on a slope. And this is where my little bay tree is. Now, a lot of you that have been following me know that I purchased a bay tree last year. Well, just before we left, I found that it was dying. It was all diseased. I don't know what. There was some brown spots on the bottom of the leaves, and I thought, you know, I'd pick off the bad leaves, but the tree just seemed to get worse and worse and worse. So I cut it off there. There was no point in keeping it. But I didn't dig it up, and to my surprise and my joy, when I came back this season, I had this shoot growing, plus another side shoot, plus it's got branches coming up. So I'm going to let it come up as a bush, and I believe this is also another bit that was coming from the root. So it did come back from the root, which kind of surprised me. I guess the root was pretty strong, and it looks much healthier than the original. It's not as big, but it's only a few months anyway. I think I cut it back in the end of March, mid-March, when we left. So either the winter killed it, or I don't know, I think it was diseased anyway. I didn't catch that when I bought it, but what's coming back seems to be really healthy. So around here is where I may want to plant some other things. But that's what we've been up to, and cleaning up the yard. Oh. So I also moved my large fig trees. These are the ones that I grew last season, and I moved them over to the side yard here. And the rosemary that I had planted in the ground at a bad spot, for the time being I put it in this old bucket. Gets lots of sun here when it isn't cloudy. And the second small pomegranate, because I don't know exactly where I want to put it in the ground, I put it in one of these buckets as well. Now it may stay here for quite a long time, or maybe eventually put in the ground. Now this fig is absolutely gorgeous. But it's only got 2 little figs on it, but I'm sure we'll get more. See, there is the 2 little figs. And it turns out that this fig tree is one that puts out 2 crops, one in the spring and one in the fall, or one in the summer. So Mark is in the process of taking down our ugly deck, and it's pretty dangerous. I'm all for taking the whole thing down and just putting some makeshift steps until we can rebuild this, but that's up to him.
I don't like to do things more often than what's necessary.
Yeah, so I'll leave him to that. But yeah, I was taking it apart to see what kind of condition it is underneath. I mean, they put sheets of plywood on top of rotting boards, and that was a temporary fix, I guess. And now it all has to be taken apart and properly rebuilt. And of course, the parent fig tree is in all her glory. She has tons and tons and tons of figs available for me if I'm here. I wish I were here all season. I would pick as many of them as I could, but literally there are hundreds and hundreds of figs here. Every branch has figs. High up, low down, you know, there is just figs everywhere. And I was hoping that some of them will mature before I leave. I'm hoping they will, and that I could try making some sun-dried figs. There's more. You know, unfortunately, that takes at least 10 days. So my hope is that I can get some, but if not, I guess I can dehydrate them in 1 day. But yeah, there is just figs everywhere I look. The little branches to the ground. Each branch gives me some figs everywhere I go. Well, this is marvelous, marvelous. Even branches that are in poor shape, that are diseased, still seem to put out branches that give me figs. Now, when you look at that. And of course, the taller branches up there, there's no way I could reach them. So, I mean, I suppose if there are some ripe ones there before I leave, I can get a ladder and do what I can. They don't all ripen at the same time. Now, this is what is considered the Breba crop. This tree gives me 2 crops, which is amazing. You know, I won't be here for the second one for sure, unfortunately. But I'm told that the first one is probably the sweeter one on this kind of tree. This is apparently a mission fig, black mission fig. That's what my phone tells me it is. It's what it always has told me it was. So, but it does have an early crop on old branches, on the existing branches, and then it puts out a second crop on the new leaves later in the summer. And these 2 larger cuttings that I took, I actually had 3 in these big pots. And one of them, as I told my neighbor, had his name on it, and he finally came and picked it up. So I did have 3 substantial sized ones, but it won't take long before the ones I have in those red pots grow to this size as well. They do seem to grow quickly here. You got a lot of sun and you got a lot of rain. So even with the drought, and that is why I put them in these large size pots, is because I knew I wasn't going to be here to water them. And either you put something like this in the ground, or you put it in enough of a pot that it can survive with the rainfall. So yeah, I had 3 of these. They're all beautiful. This one had kind of bent over, so when I came in, I had to stake it up. As you can see, I had to tie it up, but it's doing well now. It's standing up, and the one I gave my neighbor had 11 little figs on it. Like, to me, this one is the most beautiful and branched out, but his had the most figs on it, and since I don't need figs, I'm just half growing these for fun. Well, And Mark seems to be not discouraging me at all, so that's wonderful. Anyway, this is Tony from her Homestead Skills. Hope you're enjoying your beautiful summer weather.